Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about The Handmaid's Tale, Season 3, Episode 7. It's called Under His Eye. How did we get to halfway through Season 3 before that title was used?
Yeah, I'm shocked. It does seem like a really obvious one that they'd have used ages ago, doesn't it?
It does.
I just assumed they had.
Yeah, maybe there is multiple episodes called this. I don't know. I can't believe it took this long.
They're all called it.
To use this, but yeah. So this episode is about June trying to kind of start the planning of an escape, but with Hannah. So she's talking to the Martha who at the store with the Martha who works in the house with Hannah, and tries to arrange a meeting at the school, and her walking partner's kind of being nosy and listening and keeping an eye on her.
She's been terrible all season, so this isn't surprising.
It's not surprising. She's especially terrible in this episode, though.
Oh yeah.
And of course, we start the episode with their sort of standard hanging ritual, where the handmaids are forced to be the ones to pull the ropes to hang people, which is relevant in this sense because it bookends the episode, because we come back to this at the end.
So have we seen this before? Because it felt familiar.
I think we have. We've definitely seen a version of it. I don't know if it was the exact same like three rope system, but we definitely have seen hangings before. Yeah, it's funny. I think this episode's kind of frustrating in a way, because I do think there's elements of it that feel kind of wheel spinny in terms of
if it feels in a bit of a lull.
Yeah, it feels like we're kind of going through the motions of what we typically do, but there are some standout moments that I think are handled very, very well. I think particularly the this plot to get to the school, and like they let in, because she can't walk out alone and go to this school, so she has this plan to talk Mrs. Lawrence into it, and she makes her agree, and it actually feels kind of shitty on June, because she's kind of like sweet talking her to like go outside with her under the pretense that it's good for her, but it's really she's got her own agenda.
I mean, it kind of is good for her. To a point.
To a point, but she does have this, and she does admit this to her. Like, they get like halfway, and they have this encounter with the Putnam wife, and they see the baby, and she's like noticing this feels kind of weird. But she's honest and says, no, well, like this is my chance to see my daughter. This is why I wanted to go out. And she gives her the choice of going home, and she says, no, let's go do it.
Let's carry on. Yeah.
And unfortunately, the guardian they thought they were going to see, the Martha said, oh, this one's a friend, isn't there. And they don't let June in for a start. So June has this moment where she can hear the kids playing inside, like over the wall, because it's a wall with a barbed wire like top, like it's
quite a high wall as well.
It's like a prison wall. That they really take the security of these kids very seriously.
Not surprising, given that kids are their most, precious resource.
It's very much obviously consistent with the show up until this point, but I did think that some of the moments here were quite well done, like the over the head shot, seeing the kids playing the other side of the wall and her against the wall,
and the kids seeming perfectly happy.
Yeah, because they don't know any better, I guess.
No, they don't. But like I say, we're saying, oh, it's like a prison wall, but the kids don't give a shit. They're laughing, they're playing. It's it's like kids on a break at school, right?
Yeah. Although, as June herself pointed out, it's a school that would cut off her finger if she tried to read. So.
There is that.
Checks and balances here. So, and then we have this moment where Mrs. Lawrence is freaking out, and then June sort of has to come around and comfort her. And I thought that moment was well done. I like the idea of like June actually having to feel the guilt of like what she's kind of talked her into, and then
abandon trying to see her daughter and be like, okay, this is not necessarily more important, but this is my fault, and I have to deal with this.
Yeah, taking responsibility, and then seeing like Lawrence himself kind of like give her the eye, doesn't say anything to her, he just
bit of a cold shoulder.
Yeah. And that's effective. But the big climax of this though is the final hanging, where the Martha that was trying to help her is walked out onto the stage, and June has to be one of the handmaids to help kill her for trying to help her, and it puts in perspective again this idea that like if she's going to be fighting some sort of war, trying to get out, like everyone who helps her is in danger, and she has to bear the responsibility of this. I think where the episode in part feels a little bit wheel spinning is that we've kind of made this point a few times, and we don't necessarily need it again.
Trying to see Hannah again, even to that point.
Yeah, and it makes sense she still tried. I mean, it's not like out of character for her to still do this. It's just from a narrative
There was no
perspective.
new motivation to do it. There was no
Yeah,
new reason to do it. It was just she's like, "Oh, I'll tell her we're starting something." Like, it felt like this school is kind of okay. You kind of get one opportunity to do this. You get one chance, and this kind of felt like she was just wasting it a little bit. Like, it didn't feel important enough to be that one chance to do what you needed to do.
yeah. I don't want to shit on it too much because I think the episode is again very solidly made. It feels like we're kind of repeating some beats that we had. I think alternatively the stuff in Canada is a bit more interesting because
That's probably the best stuff. Yeah.
it's Emily being asked all these questions to assert like her relationship with Nicole and her fitness to be some kind of guardian, or like who she was as someone who left with Nicole. And they're asking like, oh, so did you really steal a car and like attack someone? And technically yes, that's true.
Yeah, and it's weird because all of these things are pretty terrible when you just say them outright. The way they're questioning it's like, did you stab your supervisor? Like, it sounds like, yeah, she did some pretty terrible things, but then in context, of course.
Yeah, and that, her wife is like hearing all this for the first time, and she kind of chimes in and says, "No, do you have any idea what they did to her? Like, like what she was fighting against?" And she tries to like say, "Hey, you can talk to me about this stuff. You don't have to bear this alone." And she doesn't do that, but she does open up a bit to Moira. And they're having drinks, and Moira's got to go because because she's trying to bond over being gay essentially. And she's like, "Oh, you went to this school? Do you know this person, that person?" And she can't find any common ground. And she's like, "This is weird. This is like the only two gay women on the planet who can't find like connection." And it's just Moira being kind of charming and trying to cheer her up. But she's going to this thing where she's going to like protest some Canadian minister. Yeah. About them even considering or communicating with Gilead about possibly extraditing Nicole, and Emily's like, "Can I come too?" And she's like, "Well, yeah, if you want to."
Sounds like fun.
But it's kind of her finally letting off steam because she's just kind of there for the first little bit as Moira's shouting at the guy, and then when she says when he says something like
the mother surrendered her rights.
Yes, she says no, she didn't. She, gave me her child to bring here, and like she finally starts to kind of speak up and let her energy out, and it feels like she's really kind of waking up in a way. So that was a really great scene, and then I think the scene where they're in the jail cell afterwards, and they're kind of leaning against the bars with each other.
Yeah. And I love how they're literally in a jail, like they're in a prison cell, and it still feels that they're less in prison than they were in Gilead.
Yeah. And I love like because they kind of admit to each other the worst things they've done. Where Emily's like, because when she's asked in the interview earlier on, she's like, "Have you done anything else that Gilead would consider illegal?" And she's like, "Probably." And she's like, "Yeah, I kind of poisoned one of the wives at the colonies." And Moira's like, "Yeah, I killed a commander, and I didn't need to. Like he was asleep and I was escaping anyway. But
I just wanted to.
And they kind of they'll lament for a second, like, what did that place make us? Like, what did we turn into to survive? And it's like it's this kind of like harsh reality of like anyone who's ever been through a war, for example, what you have to become to even like get through it.
Yeah. But then there's this moment where Moira says, "Yeah, but have you killed anyone since you got out?" It's like, no, well, me either. So what we were isn't what we are now. It wasn't a permanent.
Yeah. But it's this trauma they have to live with. It's that classic kind of PTSD of like going, having to deal with what you went through when you were in combat, essentially. And for them, in a lot of ways, it kind of was worse even than that. So I thought that stuff was really well done. And all those moments really connected with me. The June stuff, some really well handled moments, like because the shot at the end when. Because I actually like this element of it at the start of the episode when they're told to like just leave after they've pulled the ropes and whatnot.
Yeah.
June actually starts moving early
before she's told to disperse. She's already like, come on then.
Yeah, and she's just moving, and like, everyone just kind of falls behind. But at the end of the episode, after this, the trauma of doing this to the person that tried to help her, everyone else leaves, and she's still standing there holding the rope. And it's the bird's eye shot of just her.
Yeah, and it was at the start, like it's kind of become routine. This was like the the third hanging this week, you know, she almost become numb to it. Like as soon as it's done, all right, off we go. She's ready to go. It's fine.
Yeah,
This one, you know, the personal weight got to her.
yeah, and like. So again, really well bookended, and I loved her losing her shit. Like, you know, she starts storming, and you know who she's going to go talk to. You know where she's going. She's going to her walking partner. She takes off her I always
Wings.
call. Sorry,
I think they call them wings,
like
don't
they
they?
do. I always call it the what do you call it? A cone. I always call it a cone. It makes me think of dogs with like a cone on.
I can see that.
But like yeah, so she comes up and confronts her and says, you know, what she's like, oh, you know, well, she doesn't even confront her. She's actually going to just walk ahead, and you know, our walking partner says, you should, you know, you're lucky. And she's like, oh, this bitch is, you know, she turns around like, okay, she's asking for it, and what did you do? You know, what did you do? It's like, oh, you know, we protected you. You know, Lydia asked me to look, you know, keep an eye on you.
We saved you.
Yeah, we saved you. And my favorite part of this scene actually, and probably the best scene of June's entire plot this episode, I loved how all their handmaids formed a circle around them so that in case anyone was watching, they couldn't quite see what was happening. They were trying to shield the guardians from seeing that someone was attacking someone else.
Yeah, I thought the actual attack bit and where she's screaming didn't play for me. I think it might be the first time in this entire show that I wasn't sold from Elisabeth Moss acting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that moment, it kind of just didn't land. It came borderline comical when she was screaming in her face. Not quite, but it was like not. I wasn't feeling it.
Okay. Okay. I think it worked well enough for me. I liked the scene. I liked her unleashing it. It's this idea that Junie keeps getting into positions where she could be caught and like, you know, sent away because of any of these transgressions, and she's just not giving a shit anymore. It really paints a picture of where she is. But I will say that this episode does kind of feel like I don't want to quite call it filler in a way, but because I do think there's some important plot beats here or there, but I don't feel like we got anything new out of her turmoil in Gilead this episode.
No. Like I say, I think there is filler in this episode, but it's not an entirely filler. Like, it's not like, you know, if something's a filler episode, it's usually you can just skip it, right? If you really wanted to, you shouldn't, but you could. This, I don't think, is quite at that level of like, oh, well, it's skippable if you need to, right? You know, if you're running low on time or whatever, because there are important things in there, but there are elements of it that in the episode do feel like filler. Like you say, you know, a lot of June's plot feels like, okay, we're just doing this so we've got a June plot.
It would be interesting to me to see, like, are we going to be in a bit of a lull for a few episodes before we start ramping up for whatever the end game, you know, the last 3 or 4 episodes is going to be? Is that going to be your...
hope not, because, you know, I don't want that, but it seems very possible.
Like, because I wonder if the end game of this season, you know, changes the status quo again. And if so, like... Did they not change it enough to sustain, you know, enough stories for a whole 13-episode season? Is that the problem we have right now?
I don't think they did, frankly. I think a lot of the stuff with Commander Lawrence has felt no different to what... Not all of it, obviously, some of it has felt different, but all of the stuff when she's out of the house has just felt the same.
Yeah.
All of the stuff where they went to Washington, the only difference is we had a scene with Lawrence going, hey, you going with them for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I like the stuff in Washington for the most part. I liked seeing how like dark and like miserable that was. I think the Lawrence stuff, I like Lawrence. I like when they lean into it, but the problem is they've not really leaned into it since like episode 3. Like it's been a while now.
Yeah, like all the stuff with the, you know, the underground coming out of his house, and him being sometimes more directly involved. It just has been barely touched on, in, you know, like you say, you know, 3 or 4 episodes now.
Yeah, they should really get back to that. And we're dealing with, you know, this extradition, Nicole. Obviously, we have to talk about Lawrence and not Lawrence, sorry, Fred and
Watford.
Yeah, and Serena. And Serena is like showed around this house. There's like one house in the neighborhood, you know, where these other commanders live that's not been like renovated yet. And you know, I did like the subtle directing touches in this house a little bit, where we see the newspapers on the table, which they're not allowed to read. They go to the previous daughter's like room, and it says her name on the wall in letters, and I'm like, I mean, you can't look at that wall technically if you're playing by the rules that you're supposed to play by.
I think they could look at the wall and just not read it. They can pretend they don't understand it, right? Because they have to. They will naturally see words. There's no getting around that. At times there
Well,
will be
actually,
words in front of them.
I think to a point they actually, theoretically, they don't. That's why all the street signs have been taken down. That's why, when they go shopping, nothing has labels on it. Like they're trying their best to make sure they never see words. Like they're really trying.
No, you're right. But like in their homes, the commanders have books.
Sure.
And the wives, well, even if they just walk past the shelf, they're in the island. They're seeing them. They can see but not read, I think.
Okay. So
this was really dated as well. There was an original Xbox controller in it.
I noticed that actually. I noticed those extra buttons. So we see Warford. The other commander is still kind of flirting with him, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, a little bit. Not too much, just enough.
Got his arm on it. Stay close. Be in Washington. Just holds his hand in his arm just a little bit too long.
Yeah.
But they're reconnecting. Ultimately, this episode is like, no, we're going to get back to the point where we're a happy couple again, where the other wives are kind of talking to Serena, and it's almost like Serena's been re-seduced by Gilead, because these other wives are kind of like, say, this is how great things are here, and how happy we are, and like, you can have this house, you can have all these kids, and Fred's getting a better job, and like they're happy. They go for a date, and then they end up at this gala thing, and they start dancing. We have this big dance sequence. And it's fine. It's fine.
Kind of the necessary beats.
It's the fine C plot, if you will, and I like the B plot a lot. But I think the episode just suffers from feeling like we're spinning our wheels a little bit, and I think to a point we have been desensitized to a couple of things, and I think I did get like a bit of a gut punch when it was the person we knew at the end. But the first hang at the start, I feel like, okay, we've done this a few times. Like we've.
It kind of didn't feel. I think that was intentional in the fact that even June's just kind of desensitized to it.
Yeah,
now. She's
true.
walking off. It's like say it's the multiple one that we it's casual. Like they're not even paying attention. Really.
I would argue that the direction isn't correct for that scene, because I think the camera work still plays it like it's a big dramatic moment, and I think
it does. It's all the focus on the ropes.
Yeah,
it's the intercutting with the MGM production, Hulu production, all coming up at the start.
Yeah, I feel like if that's intentional, that's actually quite a good idea, that she's now desensitized to it as well, so should we. But I think the direction should play that. Like, have it be just a medium shot on her the entire time and just not give a shit. Like,
kind of almost play it boring.
Yeah, because that's how it's supposed to feel. You could do that.
Because I do think that's how she does feel, given that, she just kind of walks off. She just goes through with it. She's not even thinking about it.
Maybe just one close-up of her, and then just switch to a wide shot for the rest of it, so you can see everything, and then just leave it there. Just leave it be static and flat on the frame. Because like you say, it does the close-ups of the ropes, it does the close-up of her eyes, it does the close-up of the people getting the nooses on their heads. It's a very dramatically shot scene.
It is.
And then ultimately, that's not the feeling that we're getting from it. And it almost gave me this feeling of like, you're not, like, your direction's failing me here. And I didn't quite put it together when I was watching the scene, but I think this is it. I think it's not the feeling that they're actually going for. And because of that, it's actually feeling incorrect.
Yeah. I think we've got it. And that sets the episode off on a bad foot.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. And don't get me wrong, I'm okay with her trying to escape again. I said she couldn't at the end of last season, but the difference being here is that this is with Hannah, potentially. Like, she's trying to set up an escape with Hannah. That's why she stayed.
Yeah.
I think the problem is that it doesn't feel different enough to previous attempts, and we really have to kind of shake up how it feels. And all you have to do that is have Lawrence be more involved with her, and have like them actually planning together or whatever. Like, have that be more of a thing. He's felt
like early on in the season when she was having to choose between okay, who's going to be a Martha, who's going to get sent off, right? Like, and making those tough decisions, and okay, even if he wasn't directly really helping that much, he was helping a little bit, and in her, it felt like he was grooming her, and that's kind of felt like it's been dropped since then.
Yeah, I don't think it actually has been dropped. It just feels like it's just on the back burner for however goddamn long.
Right, but the thing is, that's probably the most interesting thing this season. That's the big new thing, right?
Well, I like Serena going to Canada. I enjoyed that stuff, but
I do as well.
But I think the problem is that since she got back and they've wanted to try and get Nicole back, that kind of took June away from the plot that she was in and changed it into the Nicole plot. And
yeah, and then theoretically, this episode was the chance to get back on track with that, and didn't at all.
And it's fine if the Waterford stuff's still going to be Nicole, like try to get Nicole and Canada as well, because them dealing with that, like they're where that battle's been fought now. But with June specifically, it feels like because it felt different enough, and I was like, I was quite positive on the first few reviews, and then I still was relatively positive the last couple. I like most of the last episode. I just thought it got a bit too much.
I had more problems than you
at points.
Not a bad episode.
This one I definitely felt the wheels spinning a little bit. So I hope it. What's funny though is that the reviews for the first 6, it was specifically the first 6 were kind of like lukewarm, and I felt like it was this one after the 6th that was the one that was like, this is the one where I could see the review being there.
Yeah, I was feeling it in episode 6 just because of the whole 5 and 6 to a degree with the whole we're doing the Nicole thing, and that felt like we were just undoing stuff and going through that motion of kind of resetting the status quo a bit. So I mean, I was feeling it a little bit, but not as much as the reviews made out. And then we hit this one, and it's like, oh, okay, now I feel it.
Yeah, but this wasn't reviewed.
No, it wasn't.
So it's just funny that it's kind of went that way. I guess they're smart that they could see it going that way. So I'm hoping I'll pick back up. Like, it's not a big deal if there's a couple of long episodes in the middle. It's not the end of the world.
It's not, no.
And this show's had such a high bar in season 1 and fair chunks of season 2 that.
The problem is, because correct me if I'm wrong, season 1 was only 10 episodes.
It was, yeah.
And this is like season 2 is with 13, right?
As far as we know.
Yeah. So I guess the problem is maybe we should have dropped back down to 10, because maybe that's the problem. There's just a couple too many episodes here now.
That could be
like,
it.
oh, we got away with 13. We can make 13. Let's do it.
I mean, if that ends up being the thing, if we get to the end of the season, we say, oh, there was 2 or 3 in the middle that weren't as good, and cutting to 10 would have fixed that, then great. But I'm not going to be that mad at for 3 weaker episodes out of 13.
No, I'm not either. But it'll be a minor annoyance that there would be such an obvious fix, right? Yeah. It's just revert to the 10, but I mean, so I almost hope it's not that. If it's just a 1 week episode.
Yeah, because if they do get Nicole back, if we do actually go through this plot and Nicole is sent back to Gilead, the fallout from that should be very interesting in how we deal with that.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I don't actually know which way it's going to go at this point, because I feel like that would be the thing to do for the most drama, is having Nicole be sent back. But at the same time, I almost see the potential in Serena's plot if they don't get Nicole back, and it's like, okay, does Serena like go spiraling from that and go crazy?
Yeah.
Like,
the problem is, if they do get Nicole back, there's a whole now June's got to rescue Nicole again, presumably just after she's rescued Hannah, and it'll just be this cycle of okay, she's rescuing a kid. That's why she doesn't go back to Canada this time. She's got another kid to rescue.
Oh yeah, we can't end the season with her making that choice again.
No,
we can't. We can't. I think stuff was involved enough in season 2 that I wasn't feeling this burn. I think some people were at the time. And I wasn't even feeling it at the start of this season. It was really this episode where I felt like we're just going through the motions a little bit here.
Yeah.
So still good stuff in there. But if I was rating this episode, it'd be like in the 6 to 7 range. There'll be rate individual episodes, but which in this show I don't think has ever hit that for me. If you go back to season 1, I'm pretty sure it was like 9s and 10s, like all down the season, most lately.
Yeah, probably. I think this is, if I was to, it probably falls down at around a 6, because while I like the B plot a lot and the C plot is fine, the A plot is what I'm not really feeling, and when that's kind of your biggest plot, that's quite a problem.
Maybe we should start rating episodes. I don't know. Why haven't we been doing that?
Because there's the problem of, do you rate everything on a uniform scale of kind of like you would with film, right?
Yeah.
It's that. Or do you kind of rate it against its own metrics of a show? Like, this is a 6 compared to the 9s and 10s of season 1s, but compared to a show we don't like, is it actually a 7 or an 8?
You rate it within its own show because ultimately it's irrelevant how this compares to season 5, episode 2 of Big Bang Theory. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. All that matters is how does this rate for people who watch the show. So, I guess the only time you're kind of going universal is maybe with episode 1, because you're saying, is this good or bad? And then from there on,
but that's got its own unique appeal of, okay, is this good or bad enough to get you invested into the show? Does it make you want to come back? Does it succeed as a first episode?
I'm giving this episode a 6.5.
Well, I'll give it a 6.
I love how so many shows that we're halfway through and are just going to start getting ratings all of a sudden. No one's going to know why.
We're gonna go. Look, just go watch The Handmaid's Tale. We went through it all there.
Oh dear. No, so you know, like not its best episode by any means, but hardly painful to watch either. Just let me make that clear. It's not.
No, maybe a little at points a little dull because it does feel repetitive, but
Yeah.
never painful to watch. No, certainly.
Yeah. So that is Handmaid's Tale, episode 7 of the season. We'll be back with next week with episode 8, of course. Let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. It helps us out a lot if you do. Rate the podcast on a podcast app if you're choosing whatever one you're using. If you're choosing whatever one you're using. That was a nice little. I just sort of looked into a nice little rhyme there.
No, you're going to be reusing that to death, aren't you?
So you can support us, of course, financially over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, where you can support us for as little as $1 per month, and you get bonuses, extras, some early stuff, and you get to keep all the shows coming. So go over and have a look and see if anything tickles your fancy. As for other stuff that we do that you may want to check out, we are reviewing various other shows right now. We're just about finished season 2 of Dark on Netflix. We're working through Too Old to Die Young on Amazon Prime. Me and Tara are reviewing weekly Big Little Lies season 2, which may be the most relevant to this one.
Yeah, coming very shortly, as in like tomorrow, is Stranger Things.
Oh, within 24 hours of this going up, the first Stranger Things season 3 review will be up. So
there you go.
Go look for that. But yeah, that is us. So thank you once again. We have shirts and stuff. I've not mentioned this in a while, but there's links in the description to our Spreadshirt stores for both the US and the UK, whatever one's more convenient. And you can get like Mail Fuzz shirts and hoodies and hats and stuff. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?